Hello, this is the Top 5 channel. You've been waiting for. This day has come. 8 years have passed since the release of the first part of the video about the most incredible plants in the world, which received more than 10 million views. So it's time to continue today. You and I will be amazed again what the flora of our planet is capable of. Let's go. Let's start with something phenomenal. Even in such a desert as sugar sometimes goes rain, and that's enough to survive the most incredible plant on Earth. From a dried tangle of branches rises in the sand and strong winds. It can travel sometimes more than kilometers per day. This plant has been dead for 100 years. But all is not lost for him yet. It does not travel aimlessly, because its static, or Rose of Jericho, is capable of resurrection. In these parts the rain may only get a puddle once or twice a year. It's almost impossible to find. However, if looking for it for decades will be too late, the dead absorb water and turn around in a few minutes, and plants that was dead for 100 years comes back to life. Life will always find the most sophisticated way to survive in impossible conditions. But the Rose of Jericho needs more. One miracle: the rain should fall on her branches before they dry out again, curl up, and sometimes this miracle happens. The impact of the raindrops makes the seeds plants fly in different directions. The soil is saturated with moisture, does not pass through, and several hours how new ones appear. Sprouts in just a couple of weeks will bloom and produce their own seeds. Then, before they can grow any more, the sun kills them, but their seeds continue to live inside the plant, waiting the return of rain and falling into a puddle. Even if it happens a century later, soon the dead plant comes off roots and becomes tumbleweeds. But you know that the most amazing thing exists. Exactly the same plant may also be dead for years, but for it waits not for water, but for its resurrection fire. Real fire is located. The plant in South Africa is the largest here diversity of flora than anywhere else. There are about 9,000 plants in the world, the majority of which pollinators are needed, compete with each other for their help, flaunting an extravagant form and bright colors. Each promise sweet nectar as a reward, but there is one plant that avoids competition, and rising summer temperatures provides him with everything he needs. The first fire breaks out in 15 years, and then the very plant that was waiting for him a huge territory gets its chance, burns out to the ground. The flame devours everything on its way. The territory is filled, clouds of smoke from almost all plants destroyed, turned into ashes, and smoke. Smoldering coals may seem like nothing. One plant did not survive this hell, but just 4 days after the fire lily, she lay underground, 15 years old, but now awakened by smoke. Its small blooms begin to come to life and unsightly, but she doesn't need more because all competitors are dead. And this pollinators can see those tiny red beacons on great distance. Now they the only source of nectar nearby, and the more guests the flowers attract, the greater their chance of pollination. Later, a few months, the whole landscape again comes alive and welcome the return of competition. The fire lilies are fading again. Now they will return underground and be in the shape of an onion until they will wake up another fire in a couple decades old. Haul, they are me. I have talked about this many times on this channel. Many people mistakenly think that this is the most fast carnivorous plant, because speed which is trapped collapses really surprises most. Insects do not have time to react. However, there is still another predatory plant that is much faster than the flycatchers. And now you will see something incredible that boggles the mind. In front of you is eastern Venezuela. Showers here are so strong that the soil cannot cluster on high rocky peaks. Why do the plants living here have to look for another source? Nutrients are their bromeliads. Leaves form funnels and collect rainwater that accumulates in center. It would seem why a plant store water, because it's here anyway in excess. But now you will understand. These small ponds inside bromeliads are colonized a wide variety of creatures, all kinds of mosquito larvae and other small animals. They live here, they live their lives, and sooner or later they die. Their bodies after death provide part plant nutritional needs. Substances is a good cooperation in which both sides can prosper. But there is a plant predator thief who takes advantage of this situation, sneaks up on execution of his insidious plan. This is real. This robber from the world of plants, the scout stem belongs to the plant called pemphigus. She also needs to eat living creatures and nutrients, and complete fine living creatures. Bromeliad pool, excellent place to look for them. The robber lowers his stem into someone else's pool and begins transforming into a hunter. Plants grow bubbles traps and removes excess water from them, creating each bubble has a partial vacuum hatch covered with sensitive hairs. Now all that remains for the pemphigus is waiting for the right moment is enough. Just one touch to the fate of the victim was a foregone conclusion. By slowing down playback 240 times, we can see how pemphigus acts at the slightest upon contact. The valve opens inside, and under the influence all this is instantly drawn into the bubble. Happens in less than a mile a second. Pemphigus rightfully bears the title in the plant world. After feeding enough, pemphigus accumulates energy to grow another tendril to find another bromeliad pool and arrange a massacre there by robbing the unfortunate plant in the center of Hong Kong. Seeds ficus stranglers landed on stone walls generations ago spread their flexible branched roots far and wide. They can so firmly anchor themselves that they become part urban architecture. Is it possible? Perfect weed, but there are places where these extraordinary abilities of Diggs people thought of using trees in for incredible purposes. It's amazing imagination in northeastern India plateau sparsely dizzying. The Khasi people live here in steep valleys, who learn to use amazing properties of fig trees to live in this difficult landscape. Numerous tree roots firmly fasten it, in this case, and a half centimeters a day. They extraordinarily strong, flexible, and can develop in different forms. Khasi decided to use them as stairs, but the monsoon season brings almost insurmountable challenges for the people. Khasi is the wettest place in the world. Almost 30 centimeters of precipitation falls per day. Slats become deadly streams dividing communities. At this moment, relation of fig trees to Khasi become the most important. They intend fig trees are planted next to rivers when they grow up enough so that many hanging ones are formed. Roots. Young people begin to work on them. Roots are better for starting a project. These roots are numerous and very flexible. Man tucks roots into bamboo tubes that are directed to another side of the river. Then the matter is left to tree. Roots grow inside bamboo tubes. These strands are combined as they grow. They share nutrients, substances, and resources, and over time the roots become a live bridge, and unlike all wooden any other bridges in the world, these bridges, with every year they become stronger and stronger, and not vice versa, because the roots the Khasi people continue to grow. Built a lot of living bridges here. Some of the most incredible buildings in the world. Is a fantastic place. Movies. It's amazing what someone is like. It actually came to mind that living bridges from tree roots are real lifeline for the Khasi people. The importance is difficult to overestimate. Thanks to them, the Khasis can thrive in such difficult terrain. East coast of South Africa summer. It is famous for its extreme temperatures, but it is here in the Cape Province is growing one of the most incredible plants in the world, Ceratorium. It is an example of extremely rare, found among plants for purposes seed propagation. Is incredible relationship. Now you will understand the plant needs hide the seeds underground before finally it's too hot, and that's what it's for. Starts to lie and deceive, and these are the ones. Who is she going to fool? Dung beetles. They love dung. Various animals such as antelopes. Should a pile of feces appear somewhere, and the bugs are right there, they're fast. Deal with this good by creating dung balls and rolling them into your secluded place, so that later you can eat. Although at this time of year dung beetles bury dung balls to lay eggs in them, then fresher the better the manure. I like the antelope manure to beetles even more. It already comes in the form convenient balls, and you can immediately roll long thin stems. Orphans take advantage of this by dumping their seeds. The fact is that they are the same shape, size, and what is surprising, also smell. Seeds emit many volatiles, chemical compounds characteristic of herbivore experiments. These insects always bury dung. The balls are at the same depth and shape perfect for orphan seeds. Cerium is not a symbiosis of beetles. They don't get anything in return for the work done. Receives all the benefits only a plant that deceives beetles. Chemical similarity of the smell of seeds with antelope dung in no way due to the fact that antelopes feed this type of plant. No, it is formed during evolution. Ceratocurium aimed at attracting dung beetles. The unfortunate insects are coming back again behind these seeds, thinking that this is food. Thanks to this microcry, the seeds Ceratocurия are rolled by beetles onto long distances. Beetles themselves plant them by burying them in the ground, helps thus spreading the plant ingeniously. The poor beetle thinks he did good supplies, but disappointment awaits him. Some plants offer animals nectar or fruits as a reward for pollination services provided or spreading seeds, but there are those who play dirtier than. In front of you is a Persolonia tree. It is growing on tropical islands in the Indo-Pacific region. These trees provide areas for recreation and nesting of tired seabirds. These birds should be on guard with the landlord is very insidious. The plant has sticky seeds. They stick to the bird and glue it together, feathers preventing her from flying off. According to the idea, the goal is for the bird to fly to another island with tree seeds on board, thereby expanding the habitat. Plants but many birds turn out to be they stuck to the paralyzed seeds, can no longer fly, but can only walk around clinging to yourself. More and more new seeds. Need I tell you that this doesn't end well? Many birds are losing the battle here. These forests with their corpses and let the seeds glued on them didn't get to the new one at home, but at least they will start growing in fertilized soil. The plant is used in many different ways. Technician for as much as possible spreading there. One of the most outstanding. It is related to cucumber, and its name is mad cucumber. His pods for the past the pressure grew for weeks, and eventually they so tight, so well pumped bicycle tire, and now they only need a weak push is worth touching them. Or if the wind blows. How does this happen? The farther the plant shoots its with seeds, the better. If the sprouts, they will have to be too close to their ancestor, compete for nutrients, and the light is similar, but a little different. Impatience pods work, and fishing line wearable is a time bomb, and they begin the drying process. Strain on precisely located lines of weakening strength, and now any slight disturbance is enough. Even a raindrop falling for effect. Gap in the desert world. Water thieves take different forms to exploit the slightest gap in the defense plans from which water can be obtained. One of the strangest in childhood occurs inside the fruit-eater mockingbird is the seed of Tristrix subspecies of mistletoe. Their target is water. Inside hedgehog cactus caught on the spines, seeds begin to germinate. In each a long probe appears, with the help of which they are trying to find cactus skin. For most of them, plants are too much great, and they die nowhere reaching out, but this particular one was lucky for him. The surface of the cactus turned out to be reachable. He clings with a special sucker and waits for the onset of darkness. At night, cacti open their spores to breathe. Oxygen comes out, carbon dioxide inside, and with it once inside is tissue spread throughout the body of the cactus, feeding its valuable water reserves. Then later year it breaks through the skin of the cactus, and hummingbirds begin to bloom and flock to nectar. In the process of pollinating cactus flowers looks very nice if you ignore it, the fact that he is completely covered with a parasite and not with your own flowers. After pollination to complete the cycle, 300 ricks produces hundreds of white attractive seeds that lure the birds. They will eat them and then will be transferred to another cactus, and Wheel Samsara will turn around. Perhaps the most difficult pollination method belongs to a widespread forest. The spotted arum plant is very strange looking in fluorescence, with purple. A thorn called a cob. Closer to in the evening the cob heats up until it gets 20 degrees warmer environment and emits a stinking smell of tiny butterflies in search rot in which they lay eggs. They feel luring them out. Inner side of the leaves surrounding the cob is very slippery. Flies get into trap in a bulb at the base of the plant. Female flowers that need to be pollinated are at the bottom of this onion. Above them there are male flowers with pollen above and golly, slippery. Lower down the hairs. These hairs serve barrier for those caught in the trap. Butterfly women keep them imprisoned there all night. Butterflies stick to sticky women's zones of the flower, giving away all the pollen that they took. The flies from araniki dried sweet secretions, and they are trying to escape, but the plant is still theirs, does not release male flowers and ripen them. Pollen comes out covering the flies. After that the prison bars will be seen in butterflies can finally fly away smoothly to get caught in another one the same trap. That's just the point. So that this is pollination for the plant turn out to be successful, the butterfly must get out of captivity twice, in the first once to collect pollen, and the second time to deliver pollen to other inflorescences in front of you or wild oats. From Israel, on top of each seed 2 long bristles called spines, and when the seed hits the ground these often start doing something incredible. Seed must find the perfect place for cultivation. And for this, you need to look for to search. You need to move around. What exactly do these seeds do? They walk with the help of their guests, like this. Thus, the seed travels for days along the ground until he eventually finds a stone under which you can hide or a crack which you can bury yourself in. How is this? Perhaps what is their secret? It's all about using temperature differences twist while drying in the daytime. The time when they get wet, then tiny hairs unwind, cling to the surface, forcing the seed move forward. Well, since we're talking about moving, plants are impossible not to mention famous Mexican jumping beans. They grow in a small area, cool mountainous area, and away from everyone other beans in the world. They differ in that they can move. With the help they manage to jump and roll, slowly cover the distance. Some call them jumper seeds, or just a jumper. So they can do it like this, jump for 6 to 8 months, and they jump. Their targets are aimed, and they will even climb up the slope. These jumps carried out in order to get away from the heat in cooler place, for example under grass or under a stone, and it's easy proved by putting them on the platform, where one side is heated with a lamp, and the other is cooled. Then over time everything the beans will move to the cool side. How do these women manage to jump? There are no osteos. There is nothing what would allow you to move around. Perhaps you guessed it. There are parasites living inside them. These are the larvae of molly leaf rollers, and precisely they can't stand the heat. There's a larva inside starts to move, pulling the strings. What makes everyone roll, or caterpillars are very afraid to jump overheating, as it leads to their dehydration, and can kill jumpers. People like the beans so much that they sell it right with the tracks inside. Without them, they are of little interest to anyone. Blooms in the valleys of Florida every spring. Sandy cottonweed flowering time exactly coincides with the arrival of butterflies. Fears of those migrating from Mexico, but butterflies do not need fleece plants to pollinate their flowers. Instead, to collect pollen from female monarchs, lay their eggs on leaves, which will hatch and devour larvae plants. However, the funniest thing is this is exactly what the plant needed. The fact that at least a butterfly landed on him to lay eggs. She doesn't care. Pollinated a flower, and then the butterflies and their children. He will already have the plant sorted out. For this there is a clever trick. So butterfly caterpillars begin to hatch and think that now finally feast on the leaves, but plants are fundamentally important in this regard. Other plants, once the caterpillar bites into the capillaries and drenches her in sticky viscous substance, as a result the unfortunate man glues his legs together, or she. It's just that the plant's defenses sink over time, so effective that only 1/3 of the caterpillar manages to survive his first day. However, a small percentage survives, and they become big and strong. There will be a vulnerable spot. Be careful chewing the main stem of a caterpillar. Release fluid, reducing its reserves. Now the cottontail is defenseless, and the caterpillar can eat it safely. However, with the plant will be fine, because a small percentage of surviving caterpillars can cause him too much harm. It was designed for this because the arrival of the new season, the plant again waiting for butterflies to land on him, so that lay eggs and pollinate flowers at the same time. If you remember in the movie Avatar, there were plants that instantly curled up. You will be surprised when you touch them. But our real world also has something similar in front of you. Is mimosa bashful? The plant reacts extremely quickly to touching. It creates a sensation as if there was some kind of animal in front of us. Fast leaf compression reaction happens due to the fact that the bases of the leaf stalks are located water membranes on the leaves themselves, pressure sensitive receptors. Upon contact, the liquid rushes to the place contact. In this weight collapses leaf. This allows the plant to defend itself from all kinds of pests. In one of research has found that mimosa shy has the ability to self-learn and remember contact details, and unless they pose a threat, plants spend energy curling up. There will be no leaves. Polar days in the tundra last long, but due to the short summer, for many plants it takes 2 years to produce seeds. One of the fighters in a harsh climate. Modest, she looks like an ordinary fat woman, harmless, but in front of you is an insidious killer. Butterwort leaves are covered with tiny sticky balls adapted for catching insects. When the victim is caught, the carnivorous plant begins to slowly absorb prey, using glands generating enzymes that promote. There are different types of fatty acids in digesting food species, and each of them is better not for insects touch and lands. With scanty supplies, nutrient capacity, use an additional source. Insect nitrogen provides important benefits. We are transported to South America. In front of you, Pantanal is the largest water world among, having direct access to the sea several months a year are created here. Ideal conditions for aquatic plants. They all compete with each other to take place on the surface in order to get more sun rays source. Everyone is trying to grow their lives as much as possible rather until competitors do it, and every day the struggle for a place under the sun is getting more intense, but for now everyone is fighting for the rays from the depths. A monster is sprouting that will soon destroy everyone here in front of you. The present, a monster from the plant world who don't know mercy, and well armed it clears a place with one of its buds, like a mace, and now can begin unfold. It's a giant leaf. Water line Amazonian leaf expands more than 20 centimeters per day, and will eventually reach more than 2 meters in width. The huge leaves are held on air-filled supports and protection dreams, with thorns 2 centimeters long that protects her. Leaves float on the water from herbivorous fish, and their surface is covered with small plum holes that guarantee that rainwater will not drown plants in for several months. Lily will produce about 40 of these giant leaves with each everything unfolded on the surface. Like a sheet, less light remains. Another plant. Lily pushes competitors aside. Many she crushes or pierces. It's like a massacre in which no one. Lily's competitors do not survive in the end. The ends of the huge leaves pressed against each other. The edges are so tight that they cut off completely light for plants below. The battle, unconditional victory, is over. Lilies are so big and so strong, stand on the water, that they can calmly to become a man with all his weight, or not. Maybe okay, actually maybe, but only if you distribute the weight correctly. Plants can withstand up to 50 kilograms of weight per counting unusually large hollow ribs, and on he can stand up. If at least some the disc, then the weight will be distributed over the whole plant, and man can to hold on to what many have successfully achieved. Do in the video before last I told you talked about how the trees entered symbiosis with mushrooms. Mushrooms are used matrix of hair-like threads.